Welcome, my friends. Joining us today, we have Robin Seyr, the king of Bitcoin tweets. This man, we're going to dive into the story. Absolutely insane. The proof of work behind this gentleman, the mission that he is on. We're going to dive deep down the Bitcoin rabbit hole today. Robin, how are you this morning, mate?
I'm good. It's 5:30. It's really early. I love doing the Bitcoin work early. And yes, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Such a pleasure. So good to have you on. What I want to do is share some of the tweets that you've put on. For the audience watching, Robin's probably already come into your Bitcoin feed. That's probably a fact. If not, his links are below. But we're going to start with the proof of work. We're going to go through, and then we're going to dive deep down into why you're doing this, the Bitcoin rabbit hole. But this one here, proof of work. So your girlfriend activated all notifications on your Twitter account. Whenever you tweet, she gets notified. So in the last 30 days, you tweeted 2,200 tweets and 17,900 since you're on Twitter. Why are you sending out so many tweets at the moment? That's absolutely insanity.
Yeah, it started small. So 2017, I started my Twitter account, but actually I did it on a regular basis since 2022, since last year. In December, I started regularly. Then I had like 400 subscribers, 500 subscribers, something like that. And I went all in Bitcoin 2021. So 2020, first time I saw Bitcoin. 2021, I went all in Bitcoin. And when I went all in Bitcoin, I was like, that's really nice, but I want to dive deeper. It's like, okay, I put all my money where I actually speak, but I want to speak more about it. I want to dive deeper in the community. And because I have a job next to Bitcoin, so I just have less time available, so I cannot do like a startup or stuff like that. So I want to do like, okay, what can I do? I'm up early usually, so 6:30. I'm usually doing my tweets for the day. This is what I can do, and I started doing that in December 2022. I started with 5 tweets a day in German actually, and then I switched to English in like February and did 8 tweets a day.
Yeah.
And this is what I did because I wanted to dive deeper into the community. It kind of went really crazy because I also started replying to everybody.
Yeah.
And when you reply to everybody, especially when you have some viral tweets and they get more and more over time, it gets to a crazy amount.
Yeah.
I'm doing it all over the day. And so, as I said in the tweet, my girlfriend activated all my notifications. And the last time I saw it on the phone, it's like one day and she has like hundreds of notifications. And yes, that's basically my proof of work for Bitcoin Twitter. And yes, I mean, I'm growing quite good. I'm growing from 500 to almost 4,700, I think I'm now. But it just makes it really fun. It's interacting with the community. Lately, there's a lot of Bitcoin Cash going on my comments. Actually, it's fun. It comes in waves.
Yeah.
Yes, I really like it interacting with all the Bitcoin Twitter community.
We should dive into Bitcoin Cash because it's popping up in my feed as well. But Robin, the amount of time to reply with everyone, we're going to dive deep down to Bitcoin. But to you, why do you feel like you should be 100% in Bitcoin with all your funds, all your savings, everything you have to invest, and then also with all your time? Like you're working a fiat job, but you wake up, the first thing you do is get all your tweets ready, but then you spend every spare moment, by the looks of it, replying to everyone. What is it about Bitcoin that gave you the conviction or the drive to want to do that? Like, what? Because it feels like you're on sort of like like you found your purpose, but what is your purpose, I suppose?
Maybe I can back up a little bit for explaining that. So when I was 18, I asked myself, okay, what do I do with the money that's on my bank account? I don't know where it came from actually, but I was having the intuition that the money I have in my bank account that I don't use should do something. So I was researching then investment opportunities. The first investment opportunity, it's not really an investment opportunity, was a savings account. It made like 0.0001% interest. So I left that there for like half a year and it did nothing. And I was disappointed. I was like getting a few cents every quarter.
Yeah.
And then I was also, after that, I did ETFs. I did all the funds. I had an own Austria fund. I don't know if you know that. It's like an fund where you put where you can invest in all the 250 biggest companies in Austria.
Okay. Yeah.
And after that, I got actually into individual stocks. And I got also really crazy about that. I was researching all day long. I was doing all the conference calls in the middle of the night, in like 1, 2 in the morning, and I invested in quite successful stocks for myself. So I got a lot of successes with Tesla, especially with Apple, with Facebook, all the tech stocks,
Yeah.
because I'm myself a software developer. And during that time, a lot of people ask me what I do and how they can also do it. And I was kind of under the notion that you have to be a portfolio manager, you have to be an investor on the side so you can keep your financial energy sound.
Yeah.
And that was my notion for quite a few years. I was investing, and there was aunts coming to me. There were some random people from parties coming to me and asking me how can I do it with stock picking and stuff like that. And I was actually explaining them how they have to do it in their life. They have no choice,
Yeah.
and how they actually do it. And I explained to them what a PE ratio is. I explained to them how to look for good management teams and stuff like that. Obviously, I didn't understand money at that time. And then more and more people, especially in 2020, came to me and said, okay, what is this Bitcoin thing? And I was a Warren Buffett child. I was saying, okay,
Yeah.
if it's not a productive asset, I don't want to own it. So I said that. And I also remember saying that it's probably a scam.
Yeah.
And but more and more people kept asking me actually, and I was like, I should have good arguments. So I was on the search for arguments against Bitcoin on a weekend. I was like, okay, this weekend I'm gonna search for arguments against Bitcoin. I was actually with the aim of doing against Bitcoin argumentation a whole weekend in my home, and said like, okay, let's dive into this. And after the weekend, so like I started on Friday, I stopped on Sunday, I discovered the role of money. What is money, and why the government fiat money is most likely not actually money. It's just a currency.
Yeah.
And this weekend was actually for me quite mind blowing. And then I was like, okay, I should try Bitcoin a little bit. And then I went on a crazy research in like in this rabbit hole for almost a year.
Yeah.
And my Bitcoin portfolio just grew and grew and grew. And at some point in 2021, I think it was in the middle of 2021, I really started to understand Bitcoin, how it can fix monetary system. So as everybody else, I came for the money, and I'm in for the financial revolution.
Yeah.
Uh, and this is when I discovered that for the problems I saw before, for the aunts that just want to keep their financial energy. They want to have a job, they want to have a family, and they just want to stay with the financial energy and not be a portfolio manager. Not everybody should pick stocks. It
Yeah.
makes a lot of fun for me. I want to do it later in life too. Right now, I'm not gonna do it, but stock picking is a job that's not there for everybody. It's not there for every mom. It's not there for every doctor. It's like
Yeah.
you should have a savings device where you can just put your financial energy, forget it, and just put your money out if you need it, and don't have to watch it every day. You should not be on conference calls in 1 in the morning like me. That's
Yeah.
not something good. So I was, and this is because I'm so crazy about Bitcoin, storing your financial energy in something sound, and you can focus on being the best doctor, the best lawyer, the best whatever you are in your real life.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm really passionate about, because this is what helps the normal people. And then in the last few years, it also come to me that Bitcoin is a freedom device. So not only storing financial energy, someone also um, having the freedom to transact with whoever you want, having no one dictate that, like, okay, you cannot transact with them, or this is that amount is too high.
Yeah.
Or you did something wrong, you are not transacting. And then on top of that, there's like the fear of CBDC, where you can also see, okay, this maybe goes really south, and Bitcoin could be a tool for it to be still free.
With the CBDCs, Robin, quickly, there was the tweet. I can't find it right now, but in regards to CBDCs, the Bitcoin ledger is public, so anybody can search it. What do you see as the best argument against Bitcoin's just like a CBDC? They can already see everything on chain anyway, so therefore, apart from it not being issued by a state, it's the same as a CBDC.
I mean, it's a transparent ledger, but you can still have privacy on it.
Yeah.
But the best argument is that nobody can fuck with the Bitcoin ledger because it's a transparent public ledger. So there is no central authority saying, okay, you cannot transact in Bitcoin. This Bitcoin transaction is not allowed. This is most likely the strongest argument, or the biggest. I mean, there are so many differences between CBDCs and Bitcoin. The only
Of course there are.
similarities,
Yeah.
the only similarities is that it's digital. I think that's,
Yeah.
uh, and maybe both can live on a blockchain. I don't know if CBDCs how they are gonna be implemented, if they're really here. I hear a
That's
lot of
just a
different.
stable coin, isn't it? A CBDC on Ethereum.
Yes, it should be, but
Yeah.
let's see what they actually do, because I think outside of Bitcoin, blockchain is actually really inefficient.
Yeah.
So maybe CBDC become just like not on a blockchain and just a centralized database, and they call it maybe they even say it, that it's a blockchain. I don't know.
Yeah.
The only real similarities are that they are digital. Everything else is different, because CBDCs they are basically fiat, so it's not something better. It's maybe they are fast in transacting, maybe they improve a little bit on the speed and on, but they also improve on how they maybe can control people. And
Yeah.
I'm always cautious about those things, because I'm a big believer in thinking people are good and thinking positively. Um, but even if you think really positively and they implement CBDCs, and you think that they only have the best in mind for the people, they are implementing tools that could be used in a bad way. And if you
Yeah.
know something from history, if the tools are there, it's just a matter of time till someone exploits it. So
Yeah.
even if everybody involved in any CBDC project right now is really kind and good hearted,
Yeah.
even if you think really positively, they are implementing tools that make programmable money real. So it could be at some point the case that, okay, you are transacting, but this is not a transaction we want because you ate too much meat, you drove too much with the car, you did environment could be a really big argument because a lot of people are like, oh, we have to fight against the environment, so we don't want you to eat that, and you
Yeah.
should not drive more than that.
Use
So
coal.
at the gas station, or maybe if you draw had more than, I don't know, 100 liters in a month, the next 100 liters are double the expense.
Yeah.
Something like that. That's all possible, and I'm not saying they're planning that. I'm just saying they are implementing tools that this is possible and it could be exploited.
Just on this, Robin, in parts of the world, this is already happening. Don't So CBDCs are already being used against the population. And like you're saying, maybe here in the West, it doesn't happen straight away as soon as they implement it. Sooner or later, it will. Otherwise, why allow it to be programmed and centralized as well? So, maybe something proof of stake if they're going to use a blockchain, but it won't be proof of work. They're not going to put in the energy. They have no need to do it. Do you believe that Bitcoin will start operating off a Bitcoin standard, or will Bitcoin just sort of be the old gold in a new way, like way down the track?
Oh, I 100% think that we are at some point in history on a complete Bitcoin standard, but I'm not sure if I live to that age.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a really long transition. I talked about that actually in Germany in the Bitcoin Hotel with the owner of the Bitcoin Hotel, and for me, it's like we think because we are digital and global and we can spread messages really fast. So like I can send out tweets and it gets to millions of people, and get spreading messages is quite easy. So that's something new when we see in the history of money. But the human brain is not upgraded. It's like we need time to make fundamental changes. And what is more fundamental than money? We use it every day. And I myself, I was really open. I was really curious. I was young. I didn't had a fiat mindset like 50 years in my brain. And I still needed from the first time I heard it in 2017, then till I get the first time in 2020, I needed 3 years. And then to really adopt the Bitcoin standard and go all in, I needed another year. And then for also transacting in Bitcoin and being normal with paying for stuff in Bitcoin, I needed another year actually. So I needed basically 5 years. And I'm young. I'm not in that fiat mindset. I'm quite curious and open. So people are gonna need a lot of time trusting Bitcoin, and this is not a process that goes over time. And I think we actually have to be patient for the long process to come. People are gonna come in because the number goes up, and then they discover podcasts, then they discover the Bitcoin books, and then they slowly questioning the role of money. They are questioning how they transact with it, and they view it less and less as an investment vehicle and more as actually sound money. So, but that's a process. That's not gonna be overnight. I'm really curious where we are in like 10 years, 20 years, because since 2020 we have a public company invested in. That was a big point, I think. Then there's like spot ETFs coming now in America.
Well, that's what I'd like to dive into quickly. We'll dive into that rabbit hole just really quickly. BlackRock, good or bad?
Bad.
Why?
I mean, for Bitcoin, I think it doesn't matter. I think BlackRock just has too much power. But I think it doesn't matter for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I mean, like with everything, if some centralized authority can kill Bitcoin, Bitcoin was never sound money.
Yeah.
So for me, Bitcoin is sound money, and that's why I'm invested in, and that's why I'm so deep in the community. But if I'm wrong and Bitcoin, BlackRock can just print more, or they are changing the protocol, and everybody uses the BlackRock thing, and every other fork is gonna die up, then Bitcoin was never sound money. then,
Yeah.
then it's just like that. I don't believe that that's the case. And I don't think BlackRock will hurt Bitcoin. They are incentivizing to do just their own thing. They are egotistical about their goals. But with everything in Bitcoin, if everybody is egotistical in Bitcoin, they're actually working for Bitcoin, and everybody grows.
Yeah.
So so if like BlackRock makes a lot of money with Bitcoin, the whole community grows, because
Yeah.
they are onboarding a lot of people, they are onboarding a lot of companies, and then people fear that BlackRock maybe prints more Bitcoin with the Bitcoin spot ETF. But you have to see that they are regulated heavily. The Bitcoin ledger is transparent, so you can always we most likely will know which addresses belong to BlackRock at some point. There will be websites monitoring those stuffs.
Yeah.
If BlackRock really, I don't know, says they have a few 100,000 Bitcoin, or maybe even a million, I don't know how much money they can get in with the institutional money, and we see only addresses with like 10,000 Bitcoins and stuff like this. I think at some point it will come up. And if you're really into Bitcoin, you don't buy it with BlackRock. So
Yeah.
this is more to let money in that otherwise wouldn't come into Bitcoin. So basically, I think BlackRock is good for Bitcoin, and it will enhance the community, and the community is strong enough to deal with it. Like in every year, there comes more and more stronger people in it. We saw 2021 in the beginning, I think it was, where Elon Musk came into Bitcoin, and the price went up really
Yeah.
fast. And then he said the whole environmental thing about Bitcoin, and then it went just down to the point where it was before him.
Yeah.
And this is where a time where Elon Musk actually can manipulate the fiat price of Bitcoin quite good. But right now, I think he cannot do. Like if he has to do something really crazy with Bitcoin, so he can move the price. So we see every year you need bigger and bigger institutions, bigger and bigger countries to actually move the price.
Bitcoin is in the news like every single day. And then Elon Musk comes out. Like if that FOMO is already starting, then maybe Elon Musk may be the catalyst, but he's got all the good stuff behind him as well.
Yeah.
But if he was to do it right now, nobody's paying attention, probably not. So the way I see it, and I was wondering if you think similar, like Larry Fink is our marketing manager at the moment. He talks about this Bitcoin ETF. Most people are going to go to the ETF, but some people that otherwise wouldn't have found Bitcoin, because BlackRock's into it and have endorsed it, they may watch your podcast, or they may see yourself on Twitter, Robin, and then they go down their own rabbit hole, and maybe they start with the ETF, but we see more and more people self-custodying Bitcoin. Or do you think we're at like peak self-custody now and people are just going to stick to the ETF because it's easy?
I remember a chart seeing on Twitter that on 2020 in March, we had the most Bitcoin on exchanges. And since then, it's declining and declining on the exchanges. So people are more and more self-custodying.
Yeah.
I think we as society and humanity, we just have to learn how to keep our own keys.
Yeah.
This is we learned how to write emails, we learned how to WhatsApp, we learned all the technical stuff. We like when you move back 20, 30 years, a lot of stuff we're doing now daily is crazy to people like just 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So keeping your own keys, being more private about that, being responsible about that, I think is a thing that we have to learn at some point. For a long time, there will be exchanges that hold your keys.
Yeah.
This will be a thing for a long time. It's a nice question if we can ever get to the point where exchanges don't like if we get to a point where everybody has his own keys and maybe there's like just a small amount of Bitcoin on like a centralized party to maybe do some faster transaction, like on a layer 3 on top of Lightning, maybe like a custodial solution. That could be the way, but I think you should have most of your Bitcoin in self custody, like 90%, and just a small amount of it in like wallet of Satoshi is maybe a good example. You don't really own it because wallet of Satoshi is not a custodial solution, so they can do with it whatever they want, basically. But still, a lot of people, like when I look to Bitcoin conferences, I think everybody uses wallet of Satoshi. I don't. I only see that app. And that's fine. I think if you have like 95% of your Bitcoin in self custody and have like a small amount in like apps like Wallet of Satoshi, that's fine.
Just an image for everyone. It's sort of like back in the day, you'd keep hold of the gold, and then maybe you'd have like bills of exchange to it. Just an easier way. So you wouldn't carry all your gold around. That's at home in the vault or wherever it is, buried in a hole somewhere. Your Bitcoin self-storage, deep, cold, hard storage, and then a little bit, for spending or whatever. Currently at this stage, and I don't know about you, but with Bitcoin, I just accumulate it. Sometimes I spend it, but I'd always prefer to spend fiat first than once I've accumulated Bitcoin at the minute, I'd much prefer to keep accumulating Bitcoin and get rid of the fiat, and then with more fiat, buy more Bitcoin. That's sort of my way of approaching it.
Yeah, that's a good thinking. I'm only spending Bitcoin right now when I really can. Like with the Bitcoin conferences, I usually load up some Bitcoins in my wallet of Satoshi when I know I'm where I actually can spend it. But there are not a lot too much space places. There are a lot of places actually when you search for it. Like I was in Munich, there were like 30, 40 places where you can actually spend it.
Yeah.
At least
we've got a place here as well. I saw a Bitcoin ATM. Have you ever used one of those, Robin?
No, never ever used a Bitcoin ATM. I heard they have crazy amount of fees. Did you use them?
I haven't yet. I want to do it just for fun, I think, but I'm sure it'll ask for my license, and I'm probably pretty hesitant. They already know I'm buying Bitcoin, obviously, but it's interesting. You'd only be able to buy a small amount, and then you just send it or donate it to a charity. But I don't see any value in using a Bitcoin ATM now with all the KYC and stuff. People are probably better just to use a centralized exchange. But it's pretty cool to see that they are still about.
They are, I think I saw something that they're actually growing a number. And I think it's a nice marketing thing also. People see Bitcoin in real life, and we are present in the online world, but in online worlds, we are all in bubbles. And to get into the Bitcoin bubble, it's like a long way. And for that, we need mainstream people like Michael Saylor that were not into Bitcoin at all, that were really famous and and rich before, and then they came into Bitcoin, and then obviously they are talking about Bitcoin the whole day. That's always good if someone has an audience and comes into Bitcoin without being a Bitcoiner first. And Bitcoin ATMs is something like that because it's a physical station. You see it in the wild. I also posted a picture once of a Bitcoin ATM. It was like a huge thing with a Bitcoin bee. Like it was really nicely designed also.
Yeah. Yeah, just sort of like a major billboard sort of caught in reality. And then I guess that fires off about like Vivek and presidential hopefuls using Bitcoin now, like on their campaign trail. Like these are just sort of like Vivek is self-made billionaire, but comes from the traditional mainstream finance or areas into pharmaceuticals. But like really someone that's going to resonate with the masses, and he comes out and he's on the campaign and then he's talking about Bitcoin and hard money and things like that. And who the other presidential candidate that's doing it, I'm just having a mind blank at the minute over there. But it's crazy that now it's starting to become more and more on the main stage. Like these people are running for president. I'm not sure what your thoughts are about that. I think it's insane, man. It's incredible that Bitcoin's here now and it's only 13, 14 years old.
Yeah, we have, I think, 3 or 4 presidential candidates in America that actually are pro Bitcoin. There's a Robert Kennedy Jr.
That's what I was thinking of, Kennedy.
Yes, that's the Indian guy. I don't know his name exactly, but there are like 3 or 4 presidential candidates that are actually pro Bitcoin. I think it's 1 on the Democratic side, 2 or 3 on the Republic side, and 1 independent. But we're really early. What do you think is the impact spot ETF would have in America if we get one, I don't know, in October or in March next year, something like that?
I'm definitely biased to the upside. I just think, like I was saying before, Larry Fink is our marketing manager now. And with all the hype around Bitcoin, like you said, they're incentivized to be as greedy as possible and make as many fees. It's ultimately why they've put in for this. So I think, like more and more, he's already in mainstream media putting Bitcoin and hope in the same sentence. This is Larry Fink. Like we have the US, we have China, and then we have Larry Fink for like global superpowers. Truly, the Fed calls up Larry Fink when they need advice. The Fed spends more time talking to BlackRock and Larry Fink than they do to the US president currently. So the amount of power that this one guy has. And he's going to ramp up this more and more and more, and especially once they're approved. And like my belief is they'll be approved first. Even if they fire them all out at once, they're going to be number 1 on that list. When that happens and everyone has all their Bitcoin, there's no Bitcoin left on exchanges anymore. And the halving and everything happening there in the US presidential elections, I think it's going to be fireworks. And will this cycle, could it be and this is all probability or whatever, but ultimately I think, and it depends, you know, we could go into a Great Depression before the US elections and maybe there is no money printer or something. Like we need to take that into account as well. But say something catastrophic happening, if we look back at history, presidential years are pretty good for the stock market. The person that's there right now wants things to look good. So I dare say all of that combined, it is going to be a very volatile year, a very exciting time. And I can see it going up and then popping. But I do think it's going to bring a lot of capital in there, and they're incentivized to do that because the more people that come in and the higher the price gets, the more they're making as well. And they may not take the fees in Bitcoin, but as a percentage in cash or whatever, like they incentivized to make this thing absolutely massive, and I think they're going to. So that's ultimately good for everyone invested now. Long term, it'll go up, it'll come back down, and then everyone will get used to it. But I think in the short term, it's going to be a pretty exciting time.
Yeah, and I also posted, I think a few days ago, a chart where you can see the bear market on a year-to-year basis. Like you compare each point on a year-to-year basis.
Yeah, cool. So brought up your tweet here. Do you want to dive into what it is, what it's saying?
Yes, it's basically on a year-over-year basis. It could be, at first when I saw it, it was a little confusing because the green and red heights, those are not the Bitcoin price. It's just a year-over-year change. When it's green, it's positive, and it's red, obviously, it's negative year-over-year. And the gray line is the Bitcoin price, actually. And this is data from Glassnode. And when you see that, we are actually in a really long bear market. And there's a saying that when it's like a long bear market, it's building up. And when there's like a catalyst coming in 2024 with the Bitcoin spot ETF, with the presidential election, not only in America, also the European Union gets a new election. But I think in the European Union, it's not going to be a topic as in America, because America is a little further down the road with Bitcoin. It could be a crazy year. I'm really looking forward to 2024. It will be volatile. It will be crazy news coming out. And this is only the things we know right now. There are a lot of things happening that are happening in 2024 only, and we don't know right now. So if like companies come out and buy it, if some crazy things happens, and also with this Bitcoin spot ETF, we have to remember it's not only BlackRock. I think there are like 7 applicants to it. Like it's a big interest, and more and more insiders come out and say it's just a matter of time. I saw some article around Bitcoin spot ETF that it could be between October and March. The decision, also the grayscale court decision.
The win that the day.
Yes, they will be interesting to watch that. So overall, there's a lot happening the next 12 to 18 months, I think. And it will be really cool being on Bitcoin Twitter and just seeing all happening. If you just have Bitcoin, actually, it doesn't matter that much. If you just say, okay, I have Bitcoin, I am in for a long term, you really don't have to care what's happening next year. It's just happening. But for me, as a Twitter blogger, I really love those years where a lot of things are happening. There's exciting times. You can interact with all the people. It's a lot of drama, maybe also, and I just love those crazy times where a lot of things happening.
Yeah, it definitely makes for an interesting time. One of the things that I sort of fear, though, is say the price does just go straight up vertical. So many people are going to come in, which makes everything more exciting, which leads to more FOMO, which then brings more and more people in. That bubble will bust if that happens. Like if a whole lot of people come in, and some people are going to get a real foul taste in their mouth about Bitcoin. What do you think long term? Does it just take them a couple of years to get over, and then they just need to wait for the next cycle? And I guess like anyone in history that's held on for the last 4 years has been in profit. But if people are buying in, say it's 100,000, 200,000, whatever it is, you can pick a number out of the air. That's unimportant. But if they buy and then it goes down 50% and then they sell, they've locked in that losses. What do you think that story is going to be for Bitcoin going forward? Are we going to have more people that have been like, never again, and then they get stuck on the fiat system?
I think it's... So first of all, I think the volatility is going down slightly with every cycle, because more and more purchasing power is in Bitcoin. And if more and more purchasing power is in Bitcoin, it gets more difficult to move the price, because the market capitalization and the overall power of Bitcoin is growing. So it needs more and more power from the outside to move the price. But still, we have, like, in the next 10 years, there will be a lot of volatility. And for the psychology, I think I have this from Seifedin. It's like, first you hear about Bitcoin, it goes up, you're like, it's not a thing. Then it goes down, you're like, yes, I'm in the right, I knew it.
Yeah.
And then it goes up like double or 3x the price you saw before. And then you're like, oh shit, was it that? And then you get interested, you think you get in, you get your first cycle. Like, you lose a lot of money, maybe you buy in the top, sell on the low, like most beginners do. And then you learn the lesson, then it goes up again, and then maybe you actually start to research it, because every bull cycle gets a lot of interest in, and the bear cycles is that what the Bitcoin maxis are created, where the Bitcoin actually levers are created. So the bull market is here for getting a lot of people interested, and then the bear market sorts out all the people that are just in for a quick buck. And a lot of people leave. The majority of people will leave again. I have so many discussions with friends that are not into Bitcoin now. They are saying, oh yes, I was into Bitcoin also. You get over it.
They don't understand. If that's the attitude, they don't understand. Just on that, for me, and I'm so sorry to cut you off or interrupt you, Robin, but for me, I feel like it's just a lack of information or education that I believe everyone that puts in the work will turn into a Bitcoin maxi. I just believe that's inevitable. Like TikTok next block, if you put in the time there and gain that information, that education, you will become a Bitcoin maxi. Like there is no second best. There is nothing else. There's Bitcoin and it's hope, and it's so much more than that. But I don't know what your thoughts are. Like, I think Bitcoin maximalism, if you understand it, is 100% guaranteed to happen. I think it's mathematically certain and baked into the blockchain.
Yeah, if you're not the Bitcoin maxi right now, you most likely go through pain to learn it. Like, it's if you're 100% still on a fiat system, you will feel a lot of pain next years. Like, the money is not gonna be worth more in 10 years than it's now. So we'll get through a lot of pain. And also, when you're going through this investment cycles, you invest, maybe you sell, you see it, and everybody knows the Bitcoin price at some point, because people are watching the news. And what is in the mainstream news about Bitcoin? It's only the price. Like, oh, now it's at 7,000. No, it crashed down to 10. No, it's now a new high, 69,000, something like that. So this is what people hear. And when they hear it, and then they hear again in like 4 years, oh wait, it's now at 300,000. I know Bitcoin when it was 20,000. Why didn't I bought? I'm stupid. It's like there's like a process to it. And and
sorry to cut you off. I just brought up the chart of the dollar's purchasing power in the last 100 years. Like you were saying, Robin, like the dollar is getting inflated away. It's going there. And for us, I first heard about Bitcoin at $95, whenever that was. I was pretty young. I remember where I was standing. I was in front of a bloody cafe, my mate's cafe, and I spent that money. I remember very clearly on what I spent it on. And I just spent on stuff that wasted my time. And imagine just buying $100 back then. But also what I love is that Bitcoin got to 69,000, and like that was the high. Like, I think just 69, like yin and yang, it's just absolutely perfect. The symmetry of it, maybe the cycle was cut short or whatever, but it is what it is. But with Bitcoin, 69 is going to stick in people's brains, like you're saying. Oh, I remember when it was 69,000. Now what is it? It just allows more talking points. And then through these collapses, what you're saying with the more and more Bitcoin maxis are formed, then when it is 100,000 or 120,000 or whatever, there's more people educating in the space, more people like tweeting, podcasting, writing books about it, creating websites or whatever. So I think it's inevitable because of that tweet, basically, like what you've brought up here. At the end of the day, people are going to realize that there has to be something better than this, and they're going to end up with Bitcoin. This is another great tweet from yourself as well that I just want to dive into. Fiat/shitcoin world, looking rich and living paycheck to paycheck. Bitcoin looking broke and being financially independent. We are not the same. Do you want to break down what this tweet means to you? And especially the same, we are not the same, because that comes up a lot with Bitcoin maxis. What's the mentality behind that? Because it's pretty full on.
I'm really tribalistic with my Bitcoin Twitter account. I'm always also trying to bring a point across, maybe being extreme with it.
Yeah.
And obviously, there are also people in Bitcoin that like to look rich, and that's totally fine. And there are also people in the fiat world that look broke and are really rich, and that's also totally fine. So I always paint a really clear picture, but obviously the reality is a little bit more mixed.
Yeah.
I try to always make it extreme and bring a point across on Twitter. So with that tweet, Bitcoiners know that real value is not created just by a frame, just by like looking good, having a suit on or something like that.
Yeah.
And they know that you have to be, and it's also about the time preference, I think, mostly, because when you are in a fiat world and you hunt, you get used to like, okay, I need to have a certain frame. I have to find a new thing. I have to always keep hunting and always try to bring something across. But when you are into Bitcoin, you know, okay, I have some value here. I can store money, and the time preference actually lowers from you. So this is maybe a point why fiat and the shitcoin world is more often associated with like fancy cars, fancy clothes, and stuff like that. And Bitcoiners, especially the Bitcoin only and Bitcoin maxis, are more like, okay, I'm driving my, I don't know, Honda Corolla, and I'm okay with it. I'm just having like some shirt on that costs like almost nothing. And it's about a time preference thing. But when you see in the world, like, I don't know, 30 years in, this gonna be maybe a little bit of a mix, because more and more of the masters come in. Then there's a really interesting question. With a Bitcoin standard and with time preference being now lower, because when you're on a Bitcoin standard, your time preference is lower than when you're on a fiat standard. Like the same person, when you put him from the fiat standard on a Bitcoin standard, it's just a matter of time till the time preference lowers from that person. So this is an interesting question. How does this change the whole society and the whole world when the time preference of the whole world comes to a lowering end? And I think it will be really beautiful. I really think that it benefits everyone in the space in the world.
One of the things there with time preferences, before you and I had an interview, I was talking with Michael Dunworth, and that video will be out for everyone. He's spent Bitcoin into the future and then published the private keys, which is essentially the password. Everyone within Bitcoin knows that. So like anyone can get those private keys, but he's spent that into the future. But coming back to time preference, with Bitcoin, if we are on a 100% Bitcoin standard, what Michael is talking about with spending that Bitcoin out into the future is time is also going to slow down as well, and we're going to use Bitcoin's blockchain, the block clock, as a time standard as well. And because it's every 10 minutes instead of ticking every second, everyone's time preference, along with the time preference of hard money, but the world's going to slow down again, because as we've progressed more and more, everything's sped up. Like, the days go quicker, you can't get enough done. Michael went on to say, like, listening to podcasts like at 2x speed, we're just trying to cram everything. But on a full Bitcoin standard with a lower time preference, do you think we'll be able to slow down as a society that much as well? Have you gone down that rabbit hole of using not only Bitcoin for a great store of value, but as a way to measure time going forward?
The time chain, basically, yes. I got into that. And I also think that Bitcoin will be a degrowth for the whole society. And we are now in this fiat world where we have to drive and have to growth. It has to go up. It has to make more faster. And I think we're at that point where it's not that healthy anymore, and a little degrowth phase can be really, really healthy for the whole society. So, of course, on a Bitcoin standard, time preference has to lower. This will, with, as you said, every 10 minutes, the block size, when it's the time chain, and it's not every second, and it will lower it, of course. I'm actually not that into the time chain theory. It could be really true. I didn't dive into that deep. But if Bitcoin is the 100% Bitcoin standard, and we use that as a fundamental basis to our life, that could be very much true. But that's a long way to go also. I think it's like Bitcoin maxes are really fast. Like they are thinking far ahead. They are thinking that we are really fast into that option. But stuff like this really needs time. Like just investing in Bitcoin takes a lot of time for people to comprehend and go in. And stuff like time chain is something that is really deep ingrained in our brains. Like, how long do we use that? Like, everybody that is now on Earth and lives knows like the time we used to. So that's something really hard to get used to. And I mean, it's starting already on Bitcoin conferences, on Bitcoin meetups. They're often like this. This block is now the time. So it's starting to get a little bit into the Bitcoin world, but even into the normal Bitcoin world, I and most other people are just using the normal time. So even in the Bitcoin maxi sphere, I think almost everybody uses still the normal time to do stuff.
One thing that I think would be really helpful, like, I'll just bring it back up again, is like when we organize this podcast to have you on, Robin. For me, it's 2:43 p.m. and for you, it's probably 6:43 in the morning.
Yes.
So our time zones are different, but the block height's exactly the same. I can see that being beneficial because it can always be a headache. Like, it's easy with Google Calendar. Like, once I send you a time for it, but I do need to be able to work out where you are in the world, you know, and you're in Austria, and then I'm talking to people in the States and London, Singapore, wherever it is, everyone's in a different time zone where the block's always the same. I find that pretty, I think that could be useful, but it's still a way off as well, and we'd need like an email calendar thing that uses the Bitcoin blockchain clock made.
It unifies the world, Bitcoin, and that's something really, really nice. Right now, we're using so many different currencies. Like, if I drive just 2 hours to the Czech Republic, they have a different currency. They're
Wow.
using, it's like you drive a little bit in Europe and they're using a different currency. I mean, the euro is quite spread here, and you can almost everywhere use the euro,
Yeah.
but they have different currencies also. And not only on a currency level and also for the time chain, it just unifies the world and brings it a little closer together because we're on the same standard.
Yeah.
We can transact with one each other. We can now transact over the podcast. We never saw each other in real life. We actually never spoke before the podcast to each other, so we can actually transact with Bitcoin. We don't even have to trust each other. And with the time chain, we can say, okay, let's make on block 8 and stuff. We meet there. It will be interesting to see how this pans out. I think we actually have a long way to go, and I'm glad I'm on this journey and I can contribute a little bit on Twitter. Um, but it's really interesting to see how Bitcoin could unify the whole world.
Yep. On that topic of unifying the whole world, this is a photo from the Voyager that got sent off into space, like Voyager 1 probe. That's like in deep interstellar space. They turned the camera around and took a photo of the Earth. So this little dot here on the screen is planet Earth caught in a sunbeam with it. And when we can see that, like, this is all of humanity. This is everything that we have ever known to exist. All our history, everything lives in that little dot. There should be no reason that the whole world isn't unified. And I think Bitcoin at this time in history, where we've got the technology, the communication and stuff, like you were saying, where we can interact, it makes 100% sense to have it as well. Like, it's not just something that would be nice. It seems imperative. Like, we're all on this spaceship, this globe traveling through space somewhere. We should all be on something that allows us to work together to look after the planet, you know, as we go to wherever this ball is going. And I think at a deeper philosophical level, and I'd like to hear that, is that where your purpose comes from, or is it something different? Like, for me, and I guess I can speak for myself, is my purpose behind Bitcoin is to share it with as many people because it's important. And there's only one race, and that's human. And so the more people that can understand sound money and just have peace of mind, and it's something that can't be manipulated, and they can go forward within their daily lives and just get on with whatever, sort of what you're saying with stocks. Like, that's fun. Even picking crypto, if people want to play around in that casino, that can be fun. But it's not for everyone. And people should only do it if they're willing to invest the time in there. But on a Bitcoin standard, you've now got the time and the peace of mind to be able to focus in on whatever it is. Like, careers have dropped down and people just go to work. They're not doing something that's intentional or aligned with who they are intrinsically. They just do it for more and more money, and they have to work harder and harder and harder, and they get caught up because there's nowhere to go. So I guess that's what my purpose is I feel like everyone should be able to have freedom, peace of mind, and that picture there says so much to me. But what's your purpose behind Bitcoin? I know we sort of touched on it earlier, but at more of a philosophical level, I'd just like to dive down that rabbit hole one more time.
Unifying the whole world and bringing it on one standard has so many advantages. And the purpose behind Bitcoin, and I said it is in a tweet, I do 8 tweets a day. I'm doing a lot of work, and I don't get any immediately money or sats out of this. Maybe down the road, I don't know. But this purpose is really strong of mine, that we can finally have something to store wealth in. That's like a sound financial energy saver. Basically, that's the reason I came into Bitcoin. And as we discussed on the freedom side and the more how can I say, the more freedom side, it's really nice. So it's like you can transact freely, and you cannot be bothered by anyone. that's this is the unfuckable money side is something that's truly amazing. And I'm a deep libertarian person, so I'm trying to enhance freedom
Yeah.
for me. And I discovered that with Bitcoin and embracing Bitcoin, everybody can enhance his freedom, his and
That's
her
right.
freedom at,
Anywhere in the
at,
world.
in any world, and it's not costly. Like it's actually brings you financial energy. It's
Yeah.
not you don't have to pay for freedom. In the fiat world, you have to pay for freedom. Like if you really want to, like if you want to do everything you want to do, you have to pay politicians and stuff like that
Yeah.
on a really high level. But in Bitcoin, you can just do whatever you want. It's like a libertarian
Yeah.
freedom device. It's a freedom catalyst, as I said, I think in one tweet, and that's something quite beautiful. And I think when I think about a world on a Bitcoin standard, that's a world I want to live in. So that's maybe a deeper reason I'm so passionate about that, because you can spend time in a lot of ways, but I just love doing my tweets. And I'm still shocked that I got to do it now for 9 months
Yeah.
and did 8 tweets a day and didn't miss a single day. Like
Wow.
I missed one slot. Actually, I have a specific slot when the tweets comes out. I missed one slot once,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm still bothered by that.
Uh,
Nobody noticed, but I'm
yeah.
bothered by that.
I
And
understand. I get
it
it.
makes, yeah, and and it's really cool to have something that like Bitcoin. I sometimes ask myself, what would I do right now? What would I endorse if I didn't have Bitcoin? I probably would still pick stocks. Actually, for me it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed watching the conference calls in the 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
Um, but Bitcoin is way more important than having fun with stock picking for me
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Maybe when you are on a full Bitcoin standard, like we are
Yeah.
one, like 80% of the humanity has Bitcoin, then maybe I can move some funds back to picking stocks, because it
Yeah.
makes fun again, and the stock market has devalued at a nice level, so it actually is just for stock pick. And this is maybe also something really rigged with the system, because right now, most people, when they want to store wealth, it's common knowledge that you just have to put it in an ETF.
Yeah.
And that props up the whole stock market. Like everybody invests in an ETF.
Yeah.
And that brings all the P ratios, all the valuations up. But once people find out about sound money and they invest in Bitcoin instead of all the ETFs,
Yeah.
this will bring down the whole stock market. So stock market investors are only those who can pick like real winners. So like only investors that go really deep into all the stocks.
Yeah.
So that will also be really interesting to see.
I wonder on that thought there, which is such an amazing thought, is having the Bitcoin like ETF. Eventually, we're going to see where all the companies that are overvalued, people are just going to start selling it because they can see, well, Bitcoin's a better store of value, and that'll take all that money out of that. It'll flow into Bitcoin, and then all the stocks together will come down. But that's put all the money into Bitcoin. Then people from going through that process then hold more and more of it, and then it'll be people will then, with the longer time preference, become more focused in if they were to pick stocks. They're not just going to throw money at everything, and it wouldn't be debt propping the system up anymore, because all of that value that was there, any value that was there, was sucked up by Bitcoin. Yeah, I don't know if you want to explore that quickly, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, it's not just about the stock market. It's also about real estate. I think it's like
Yeah,
crazy how houses, like when you buy a house and you have the house and everything, and you wait 10, 20 years, or like go back now 20 years,
Yeah.
it went up crazy in value. Why is that? The house didn't got better.
Yeah.
It certainly, maybe there are all living more people around you, that maybe makes it even worse for you. So why do house prices, why do stock prices go up? Yeah, because we amp our money supply.
Yeah.
We put up more money supply than before, and you can see the S&P 500. It basically goes with the M2 money supply. The COVID year is so nice to watch. In the start of 2020, when you compare the start of 2020 and the end of 2020, we started with no crisis. Like there was COVID in China, but in the West it was like COVID.
Yeah.
It's like not a thing. And then in February, everything comes to a halt because all the government and February, March, I think was the time where
Yeah.
everything was just stopping. They were locking down everything.
Yeah.
I think in Australia it went really, really crazy with the lockdowns, what I heard.
Yeah.
And all businesses closed down, all the mainstream went down, revenue wasn't there. And in this same year, from start of 2020 to end of 2020, we actually had a 40% increase in the S&P 500. And guess what also had a 40% increase? The M2 money supply.
Yeah.
And before that, the M2 money supply grew around 5 to 10% a year. And also the S&P 500 grew 5 to 10%. So you can see that
Yeah.
ETFs and stuff like S&P 500 is directly correlated to the M2 money supply. And real estate, I don't have any charts here, but I think if you search for it, you find that it's also correlated to the money supply in some way, because it's a scarce asset. Like high growth stocks that have a lot of revenue and profits are a scarce asset, just as real estate. But they are in that big demand because people don't know where to put their money. They are in desperate search for financial storing, a financial energy storing device, and that's Bitcoin. That's sound money,
Yeah.
and everybody will discover it at their own time, but they will discover it, and it's just a matter of time till they move out of their useless ETF and don't buy the fifth house and start buying Bitcoin. So that's why I think the whole financial market, it's like this great saying that Bitcoin sucks all the financial energy from all the other assets and brings them down to their utility value.
Yeah, 100%. Robin, where can people find you to be able to dive deeper into the rabbit hole?
And Twitter. So I'm only on Twitter right now. Maybe I'm starting other channels in the future, but right now I'm really loving Twitter. And it's just like Robin Seyr, Robin as usually. And yeah.
Perfect. I'll drop that below for everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It was nice.